My wonderful, beautiful, amazing Sagittarius. I'm Gabriella from Gabriella's Vampire Tarot. For today, I'm going to be doing your general reading, your past, present, future, your 9-card spread. I'm going to be using the regular tarot deck, clarify with the vampire deck, draw a special vampire card, draw a vampire oracle, and finish off with 3 yes or no answers for thee. So let's get started with your reading. The general card is the 9 of Wands upright. So let's look at the first row, which is also your past. I'm not allowed to show this, but Judgment came in reversed Scorpio energy, the sign before you. And then you get 6 of Cups, Cancer, Pisces, perhaps more Scorpio placements. And then you get the 5 of Pentacles, Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo placements as well. You know what I kind of got here? Is, it's like you probably struggled with probably some kind of, financial situation in the past, stuff like that, and especially with the Judgment, that probably came in reverse. It could have been an unforeseen event that could have led it towards this, this, negative financial, like ending for that matter. But what I'm kind of getting here as well is that, your head was kind of, elsewhere. And that's kind of, sometimes, when you're actually too focused on either only negative aspects of something, especially when you are, but when you're just kind of thinking, okay, it's just all doom and gloom about the 5 of Pentacles. We've just nothing but suffered, and we're just only, living a basic means or lifestyle. We're just living paycheck to paycheck. It seems like, our bills are just piling up and our finances are just, decreasing in other ways. But the thing about Judgment is it's kind of like, your head is kind of in the clouds. It's like your mind is elsewhere. But I love the fact that this is kind of like, yeah, and that's why you also got the 6 of Cups reversed, because the thing is it's pretty much just kind of thinking, like, how did this happen and why did this happen? Honest truth, sometimes, these situations happen where, there's not always going to be a reason. And I do love the fact that you may be exhausted beyond belief as the general card of the 9 of Wands, where you just think, no matter what I do, I just feel so bone tired, I feel exhausted beyond belief, but the name of the game of any kind of successful outcome is to never give up. So I can understand how you pretty much just think, okay, this unforeseen event, just put us in a real negative binding of some kind, and now we're just pretty much in poverty city. Yeah, I know a lot of humans have suffered. I mean, even back in my time, it's like, our currency, we pretty much, just, lived, like, so in a basic means, it's like when I see all these humans in modern days, whether it's these rich humans and stuff like that, I just think, wow, how times have changed and stuff like that. And the thing is, it's like me being a vampire, I'm not like those movies, I'm not like, when you pretty much hear about these real dark, seductive creatures of the night, that live in these mansions and castles like Dracula and stuff like that. Far beyond any kind of truth, because the thing is, it's like, I mean, that's the deep and honest truth, is it's, that's why, these movies and TV shows are just primarily just entertainment. So, try not to think, well, vampires are just an automatic, source of richness and stuff like that in other ways. Though, I see a lot of healing and recovering, especially letting go of everything that's not working out for you in current times. You're healing and recovering from disappointment and disparity, and that's enhancing this moment of being presented with some kind of offering in other ways as well. And that's what I like to see, is, it's like, okay, so, let's try to leave the past in the past. I know, hypocritical Gabriella here talking about the 3 cards every time she pulls up a 3 of Swords or a Death card or the Lovers. Yeah, here goes, Gabriella saying this is one of the cards or 2 of the cards or 3 of the cards I pulled for the vampire. Fair enough. But the point is, of course, it's easier said than done. That's kind of the crux of anything, is when you want to try to leave the past alone, it's like it's easier. It's like, if only you could just close and lock that door and say, nope, never opening you up ever again. Just put a lock on it, and then that's it. But here you are definitely in the form of healing and processing and developing. And I even mentioned this to Libra and Scorpio as well, is, as long as there's movement and developing, like how blood flows through the human body, Because as long as it's flowing and stuff like that, it means that the human body is functioning right. As long as, the river flows, it means that, there's movement and development. As long as anything moves, it's also an act of healing and recovering as well. Because, it's like I would never ask anybody with a broken bone just to say, okay, start moving it, because it's, you can't work it, right? No. So, but perhaps like a sprained ankle, sometimes you have to kind of limp on it till, it starts actually, recovering and healing and actually finding the strength again to be able to actually start walking or using your wrist or arm or shoulder or what have you, or neck for that matter. But the thing is movement is very crucial to any kind of healing, as painful as it may be. And that's the crux of many times. I'm still learning about it, even though I'm at 301 years old, right? So, in the future, you get 2 of Wands reversed, 4 of Swords, rest and recovery, and the leap of faith and risk-taking of the Fool Aquarius energy. You know what I'm getting here? Is, you're pretty much probably still in the process, of healing, and maybe you don't feel entirely, like, let's say, adventurous, let's say, to want to head out into this world as of yet. Maybe you don't feel entirely prepared, because as part of healing, whether, you're in a hospital situation or at home or recovering, if you still feel ill in the sense where you just, can't, like, limp on that sprained ankle as of yet, or you can't, just, function, or you're pretty much still bedridden for that matter. Here, I still see you kind of in the recovery mode of thinking, I'm not quite there yet. And this is also part of recovering and healing as well. So I've actually wanted to hold both of these cards together, because in the end, I do see you taking a leap of faith and finally trying something. And that's kind of with any kind of movement and development. As long as there's movement and development and trying new ideas, themes, aspects, angles, jobs, careers, meeting new people, what have you, and so forth. And that's also part of healing from the past as well. Okay, off to clarification we go, because for Judgment reversed, you get 6 of Swords. So what I actually saw you doing was you were more or less just telling yourself, okay, it's like, we are kind of suffering from a bit of, lack of clarity here. We're just kind of thinking, okay, how are we going to cope with this situation? By moving and heading off towards a different direction with the 6 of Swords. And that's kind of like crucial for any kind of healing and with any kind of like overcoming anything, is just by moving, as long as there's development taking place. Because, let's say, with the broken heart, with my, drained, broken heart, there's pretty much no one to give me CPR, nobody to give me blood transfusions to be able to kind of revive my human body. No, it pretty much just eventually got turned into a vampire for that matter. And so, it's like, if I had the options and opportunities to be able to escape any situation, I would have. But of course, easier said than done on so many ways, because I was practically seduced by the vampire. And seduction is very strong and powerful. So, you're pretty much looking at the past in a negative angle, and you just think, why did this have to happen? Well, here you are taking off with the Daughter of Scepters, also known as the Page of Wands, heading off again. So this is movement and development and part of healing as well. And that's with any kind of like healing on so many levels, is that as long as you're pretty much healing, it's like, again, how the blood flows through the human body and stuff like that. If there's like a internal trauma and stuff like that, if there's any kind of like sprained ankles, the blood just immediately rushes over and says, okay, we need to start doing something. All of your cells, white, red blood cells, what have you, other kinds of healing stuff, they're pretty much in the sense of moving and developing on, in the process of healing whatever, was injured or traumatized, what have you, and so forth. And that's the thing is, like with any kind of like development, and this is where you were more or less is taking off already with the 6 of Swords, heading off on a new journey, taking a different direction. Because even though you're exhausted beyond belief, from having to heal, recover, move, develop, and what so forth, what have you, as long as you just don't give up, you'll eventually either, will recover and heal and be able to actually regain yourself, your adventurous confidence, side again. Or you could pretty much just start heading back or heading towards your goal and what have you in other ways as well. Because even though you pretty much, may have hit with some kind of 5 of Pentacles situation, the High Priestess, and this is one of the most powerful cards in the entire zodiac sign. And, the High Priestess is also an act of healing and thinking, okay, let's put all of our beautiful past experiences into this upper book of knowledge, and let's just kind of, start, healing, and let's start learning, by even educating ourselves in the sense, how can we, how can we either, remember this moment so we can actually avoid it for the future and stuff like that, or any kind of moment where you could pretty much educate yourself, because this is where you're finally heading off towards recovery mode in other ways as well. And that's the thing, is, by educating yourself, by maybe going to a library or doing these technology things where, a lot of humans, they actually, prefer, to look things up on these machines and stuff like that, if those, will benefit you better. But any kind of way to educate yourself will also be incredibly freeing, so you can actually, gain so much more experience and knowledge to avoid, any, past incidences, and try to actually heal and recover, so you can actually have a way better outcome in the future, because this is also you preparing for this upcoming leap of faith as well. So what I love is that, it's like with the Ten of Wands reversed, you're releasing yourself of hard work or feeling burden, and then here's your sense of self again, or at least in the sense of Ten of Pentacles, happy home, happy earth, happy family, and abundance, and confidence within yourself. So this is where there's a big, major turnaround. And I'm just so beyond impressed and proud of my beautiful Sagittariuses if this does resonate for you. Because, it's like, I love how strong and confident you guys are either way. It's like you guys are the hunters and huntresses. You guys pretty much just go out into the forest or what other kind of, area, and you pretty much just have your bow and arrow, of course, metaphorically speaking, probably, right? But you pretty much just have this reason of wanting to actually, head out and find that beautiful, target, prey, what have you, and stuff like that. So this is where you're finally regaining your, sense of self in other ways as well. And of course, with, Pentacles being a realistic, grounded, rational card and stuff like that, that's mostly also enhancing your realistic ideas of thinking, okay, what have we learned from the High Priestess, and how can we apply this in current times? So, overcoming disappointment and disparity with the Five of Cups, you get this very beautiful healing card of the Queen of Grails. So this is you actually healing and recovering. Everything is just working out and benefiting for you. I mean, I just love this reading, how it's really having this big, major turnaround, because, healing is very important for any kind of like suffering, pain, any, like even, like a paper cut for that matter, it's like, okay, your finger bleeds and stuff like that, but your body is also in the development and movement on wanting to heal that, tiny little trauma as well. But here you are in a very loving, caring, supportive, nurturing, self-love, self-care, self-support in other ways, enhancing this overcoming, disappointment in other ways. Wow. Because there's a new offering heading towards you with the Knight of Cups, giving you this beautiful new opportunity of the Empress. And of course, the Empress, being a Virgo sign, it's definitely taking place during Virgo season. So whenever it's pretty much taking place, as long as it takes place before September 22nd, before we head off towards Libra season. But other than that, you're pretty much going to be offered something, because, it's like a lot of humans, when they see people healing and recovering and overcoming, that also intrigues them, because that means, like, with any kind of new development, whether it's a commercial item, whether any kind of new buildings are being created and stuff like that, a lot of people have this sense of intriguing, feelings of thinking, what's actually going on there? And that person is healing. I wonder what's actually going to happen to that person. I wonder who they're actually going to transform and transition into in other ways as well. Wow. So even though in the future you might not feel entirely prepared with the Two of Wands reversed, you get the Ten of Grails, more happy home, happy earth, happy family, and abundance, and especially your confidence waiting for you as well. So it's pretty much just thinking, okay, it's like when you're on the cusp of healing, let's say that your human practitioner, told you to actually, just say, okay, you're going to have to stay in bed for one more night in this hospital and stuff like that. This is kind of what I see you doing, is you pretty much are still not quite there yet to actually get out, but here you are actually, still 100% yourself, but, if your human practitioner says, just, rest up a little bit more and stuff like that, or just take one more, day off and stuff like that, that mostly also enhances more confidence, more strength within you to want to proceed and pursue any kind of goal, endeavor, or what have you in the future as well. because this is also kind of like an act of healing in the sense where you are exhausted beyond belief, but you're not giving up. And that's even like in the sense of recovering. Your body is weakened and so exhausted, but it's also not giving up because there's movement and development of healing. And speaking of a beautiful Hierophant, because every time I think about the High Priestess, I also think about the Hierophant and how, how powerful the Hierophant is, as well as, it's like I see you incredibly committed to this recovery mode, and that's crucial to anything. Is as long as you're able, as long as you're motivated, you're inspired, you pretty much are putting a lot of hard work towards yourself, you're healing, you're recovering and stuff like that. This is also where you're pretty much just kind of resting up. Probably just, one more night in the hospital or maybe one more night in bed where you just think, okay, I am so committed towards myself. I love myself. I'm doing a lot of self-care, self-healing with the Queen of Cups. I care about myself so much that, whatever it takes, I'll do whatever it takes as long as I know that's, that the outcome is near and stuff like that. But of course, it's pretty much going to be nearer than you can pretty much even think about in other ways. But this is where you're so devoted towards yourself, and I just am so beyond impressed and proud of you. Because with the Fool of taking a leap of faith and a risk, you get the Eight of Cups. Now, the thing about the Eight of Cups is that it pretty much has two meanings in the sense, you could be walking away from something. You could be walking away from, the medical institution and just actually, just thinking, okay, I'm strong and fit now to head off towards the woods. But it could also be you definitely heading off back into the woods and thinking, okay, I know exactly which direction I'm heading off towards, and I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to try something because nothing ventured is nothing gained. And I'm just beyond so impressed and proud with, your tenacity and your determination of not wanting to give up, because you know how important it is. You know how important yourself is. You know how important healing and recovering is. Because even, of more confidence and strength, your special card is the King of Wands, Leo energy, your brother, sister, fire sign. And what do you and Leos have in common is that you both are hunters and huntresses. Even though you're pretty much a mutable sign, you change, and Leo is a fixed sign. Even then, you both, have the idea of this fiery, passionate self of actually wanting to get out and be adventurous. Because Oracle says, mean it, madness, ecstatic ritual, and energy release. Now, the ecstatic ritual and energy release is also part of healing and recovering. You could be into like all kinds of like plants, herbs, those are also important for any kind of healing and stuff like that. So, if you pretty much just think, okay, it's like I consumed all these minerals and vitamins, and that mostly enhanced my recovery self and stuff like that. That's one angle that I actually saw what was going on. But otherwise, it's like madness. If somebody is suffering and in pain, that could turn one into a madness individual and stuff like that. But otherwise, just have any kind of ecstatic rituals. Heal, recover, and release so much fiery, passionate energy, like how you see this male vampire with fire in his hands. Okay. Well, I'm going to finish off with 3 yes or no answers. Please feel free to pause this video and think about the questions you want answered. For number 1, you do get a no with the 6 of Pentacles reversed. You get another no. Sometimes I just can't talk. For number 2, with the Queen of Swords reversed. And sad but true, your beautiful card Temperance came in reverse for number 3. So sad but true, you get 3 no's for today's reading. Hopefully they can still benefit you either way. So I'm going to have to leave it at this for now. But if this reading resonated for any of my beautiful Sagittarius out in this world, please feel free to join and subscribe to my channel. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. I love you guys incredibly. In a few days, I'm going back to love reading. So for now, I'm just doing general and love. I'm also open for personal readings. If somebody is interested, please let me know in the comment section below that you want a personal reading from me. And if you want to check out the different prices, I have my price list on the project page, web link on my YouTube channel, so please feel free to browse for any of those. Otherwise, I love you guys incredibly, and again, thank you so much for joining me, and best of luck on where this journey may take you.